Okay. Hello, everybody. I don't know if are you going to broadcast it up there too, Scott, or just on the computer? All right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I am going to go on here and share this to my own personal page as well. Share now. All right. Super duper. Well, it's so good to see you all. Where am I looking? Right there. Wonderful to have you here with me to paint tonight. I'm going to do my best to paint while talking a little bit to you, just like Bob Ross did. I've got a little Bob Ross thing here. I'm sure you can't hear him, but he talks and he bobbleheads, and he's just awesome. So while I'm painting, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about why I am doing this. There are a couple of reasons, and one of them is financial. It's a fundraiser for the church. And one of them is as an expression of hope and joy. And I say that because I definitely, deeply love my hometown of Anchorage. Now I say hometown because it's my home now. Of course, I was born in the Bronx in New York and grew up in upstate New York where it's bucolic and rural and farmish. But boy, oh boy, is it a beautiful place. Give me one sec here. I want to make sure I get the right colors in the right places here. Sometimes it's hard to be multitasking. But this has become our home. When I say our, I mean myself and my wife, Elizabeth. Hi, darling. And we've come to love this place so much, and it has been a rough couple of years, wouldn't you all say? There's a lot of ups and downs and ins and outs, not just with national things like COVID and the various other issues that are, dividing our country in so many ways. But also I guess those are the main things, but they've had such an impact not only nationally, but also on our personal psyche. And I know that I myself, personally, have not painted in quite a long time. Sometimes painting is an expression of hope, and sometimes painting requires hope in order to do it. Sometimes you have to get yourself geared up into a place of hopefulness in order to really be ready to put paint to canvas and to work on some things. I've had some projects that I've been wanting to do for friends. We have a dear friend named Serena, and I have a painting for her, which is nearly done, and I just can't get myself back into that mindset to be painting again, because as so many of you have expressed to me also, it's just been an emotionally draining couple of years, and it's hard to psych yourself up for certain things. Early on in the COVID days, we had a thing that we shared with Rabbi Abram and Congregation Beth Shalom, and we hung flags like this. They're just scraps of cloth, rags, each one representing something like 100 COVID deaths within Anchorage, and there were just so many up over the front of our church, and I've been hanging on to them because I don't know how to dispose of them. I don't want to just chuck them because at one point they represented lives, and that's kind of a strange thing to then put in the trash. So I thought I would use one of them tonight in another symbolic way, because like I said, sometimes it requires hope to paint. And the fact that I'm painting tonight, I think, is a sign that some of my hope is returning. Some of the joy that I have about Anchorage and Alaska, some of the hopes that I have for our shared life together as Americans, as Alaskans, as church members. I have hope that some of these things are returning back to some of the good that we've had before, and it allows me to look toward the future with a hope that I feel like has been more difficult to muster in the last years. It's been here. It's not like I've been in a spot of perpetual despair, but there are some days where you're just barely getting by, and there are other days where you feel like, oh my goodness, we are building towards something spectacular. And it's that spectacularness that has been lacking. So I'm so happy to have some of that back. I'm wondering if any of you have felt that return as well. And if you're able, I would love it if you can pop into the comments section here and let me know. If you feel like I've had some other folks mention in the church that in some ways it feels as if, just like here, springtime in Alaska, the light is returning. So many people feel like the light is returning in our lives, in our ability to gather together as a group again, that has such an amazing feeling of restoration. And so let me know down below if you're feeling that same way. I really think it's not just me. I think a lot of us have been going that way. Now, as I mentioned, it's not just that reason that we're doing this. I am also doing this as a fundraiser for our church. Now, I'm not going to clean the brushes like Bob Ross does, where he goes, it makes a big racket, because that also makes a big mess. But I'm wondering if any of you have any experience with fundraising in a church. I think a lot of people look at the way a church functions kind of on the model of Amazon.com. You know, you think to yourself, oh, I need something there, so I'm going to pop in, pay a little bit for it, and then that'll be that. And I won't think about it much again until the next time I am requiring that particular service. And I understand that's the way a lot of our capitalist society is geared. That's how a lot of our various things function. But I'm going to encourage you to make a switch from the Amazon model to what we'll call the public library model, in which you get your library card. For example, you pay a certain amount each year, and that way you know that anytime you want to go back to that place, anytime you need the services, it will still be there. We've had the privilege, but also the sad privilege, of providing funerals for some public figures in the course of our work here at First Presbyterian. And we've had a lot of people say a curious statement to us, which is, I don't really go to church, I don't like church that much, but I consider you to be my church. And someday, when I pass away, I would like for you guys to do our services here, to do my funeral. And I know it's intended as a compliment, but I do encourage you to recognize that that's not the model that will work. If that's the way that we're going, then when it comes time for you to pass away, hopefully in decades from now, there's a darn good chance we won't be around anymore, because it's not all that we do here is the occasional funeral. You know, we keep our lights on throughout the year. We keep I got over exuberant with the phthalo blue. We keep our salaries going throughout the year. We do our worship services. All the various things we do, they're not just on an a la carte basis. Those are going all the time, and it requires a sustainable and a predictable system of income. So I do hope that some of you will consider that as you look at the final product when I am done. Oh, shoot, I did it again. I grabbed the wrong one. When I am all done making mistakes here tonight, I hope that you will consider contributing so that when that time comes that you do want to be a part of what we do here, that we will still be here for you. If you consider some of our work that we do in public, many of you have commented on some of the social justice stands that we take, and you appreciate those. Some of you have commented on the way that we worked in favor of raising the minimum wage, or that we stood along with the marchers for the Black Lives Matter rally here in town, that we open up our building to various issues that are not what you all usually associate with churches. Some of you have said, I didn't realize a church could stand for A, B, C, or D. If you appreciate the fact that we as a church are playing a role in helping to alleviate homelessness in the city, both by being a part of the emergency cold weather system, by providing volunteers to spend the night at those places and provide food and companionship, friendship with the people that stay there, and also playing our role in the guest house purchase and transition into supportive, permanent, respectful housing. If you care about those things, I would love it if you would buy this print as a way to support our work, but also as a love letter to our beloved city of Anchorage. Like I said, it's a place that we love. This is going to be a skyline of the mountains with the city a little bit abstract in front of it and the water, and it's going to have the star up on the hill, up at the Nike Summit site. All these things to me gathering together to demonstrate or to express the hopefulness that I find in my heart and in the hearts of many around us. Where did I put my white? Let's try that one. Titanium white. There you go. It's in a little cereal bowl, but I'll try not to eat it. When you paint a night sky, the tendency is to make it too dark. And it makes sense because the night sky is dark, and you think, oh, let's just make it black. But then it just looks like an inky, dark, black hole of doom and despair, and that's really not the look I'm going for tonight. But you'll notice I'm not fully blending everything in, how it's kind of patchy. I don't know if that shows up all that well, but it's an abstracted form of the night sky to give the impression of depth and movement. I am a bit of a fan of Vincent van Gogh. I say Van Gogh, but recently we saw a thing where everyone called him Van Gogh, and so I jumped on board. To give that feeling of liveliness, the way that everything up here in Alaska is so alive and vibrant. I think I'm done with that one. So when this is done, it's going to be actual size, 16 by 20. We're going to make prints, and we will either mail them to you, or if you're in town, I could deliver them right to you. Each one will be signed and numbered. And the hope is that you can purchase this for the cost of going onto our website. The information is right there on your screen. There's a QR code you can use. And we want you to sign up for, what did we say here? Hang on a sec. $15 a month for 12 months. It's a repeated payment for 12 months. At the end of that 12 months, we'll send you a reminder, hey, you've paid, you can cancel now. At that point, I might do a new painting, or you might decide to keep supporting us if you so choose, but we're not playing the game of hoping you forget. We're going to remind you. But the reason we want it to be on that monthly basis, it helps us to have a predictable source. It's not all at once and then who knows what, but it's a predictable and rational and strategic way for us to know how much money we have to fuel our actions in town, to help others, to stand for the poor, to feed the hungry, to house the homeless, and all the various things that we hope we get to do this coming year. So if you could please go to that website. We will post all the finished products in the morning if you want to wait and see if this turns out to be anything worth owning. I understand that for sure. But then we can hopefully have some sustainable and predictable income. At that price, it is less than 50 cents per day. It works out to be about $180 over the course of the year, roughly the cost of 1 dozen eggs. So that's not too bad. Money is difficult for any pastor to talk about. It's not what we get into this business for. We don't much enjoy talking about finances. But you know what? It's part of the world we live in. We have to do it. And let's see here. And it takes some getting used to. And I think most people who come to church don't like to hear about it either. And it's an awkward overlap between the financial world and the spiritual world. We like to think that one just functions entirely without the other. But, you know, we live in America. Everything costs money. Right now, there's lights on in here, and we have an internet connection. And I'm using materials that came from a store, and there's heat on in this room, and there's a microphone and electricity and all these various things that we're using. Each and every one of them costs money. And so it's not something I enjoy talking about, but it is absolutely necessary. Alrighty here. So now I'm back into a little bit of cobalt blue. I'm trying to remember. I lose track of which blue is which. And titanium white. And I'm putting them both on the brush, but I'm not fully mixing them. I'm leaving them like a little bit, oh wait, I'm right in the way of that thing. There you go. A little bit mottled together. And I'm going to start putting in mountains right about here. And I'm just going real loosey-goosey with it. Loosey-goosey is an official artistic term named after Lucy Goosey, the famous artist in rural France. I'm making all this up, of course. So I'm doing my best to make it somewhat based in reality here on what the skyline really looks like. But I'm going to be changing it up pretty soon because I just can't bring myself to paint the skyline without putting flat top in. So even though you wouldn't necessarily see flat top at this point in the skyline for real, I'm going to put flat top there because, I mean, we all love flat top here in Anchorage, right? It's the best. I don't know if it's the best mountain, but it's certainly the one that we probably frequent the most. Scott, how many times would you say you've climbed flat top in your life? 20? Nice. Got me beat for sure. It really is a wonderful, beautiful place. And I just want to try to get my favorite spots in there. I was reading a thing recently that was talking about preaching, but I feel that it also applied to art. And you might be surprised, maybe not, maybe it's apparent, but art and preaching really do overlap a lot. There's a lot of overlap between the two practices. And this one in particular was talking about how when you're preaching, you should always be underprepared. Because it's in the unplanned moments, in those times when something goes off the rails or you're not exactly sure what was going to happen next, but some beauty happened. They call it the intrusion of the real, that something actually took place that was authentic and not scripted, and you see the actual humanity of the preacher, in the case of the article I was reading, but with the artist as well. So here, in this particular case, I kind of have a general idea of what this is going to look like when it's done. But not 100%. I'm not fully sure what this painting will be. In some ways, the artist always feels like they are discovering the painting and not creating it. In a lot of ways, those of us who are people of a spiritual tradition, we feel as if perhaps we are a conduit of this artistic gift. Sounds a little self-aggrandizing. We feel like it's not something that we bring to the world, but rather something that comes to the world through us. And 9 times out of 10, when I'm painting something, when I'm done and I look at it, I think, wow, where did that come from? And it's fun, and it's a little bit disconcerting then when people say, hey, can you make me a painting? And honestly, my answer is, oh, I don't know. I'm not in charge of this. It just kind of happens sometimes. And so it's fun to do for sure, but it can be daunting when someone needs it at a certain time or a certain place. And I think to myself, boy, I hope whoever's in charge of the artistry shows up that day, because it's not me. So to be underprepared does allow for a certain amount of beautiful stuff to happen, surprising things. If I tried to get every single one of these brush strokes exactly right, boy, for one thing, I would drive myself crazy, because there's no way to really get it all exactly right unless you're going to take hours and hours and hours. And for another thing, it takes some of the joy out of it. It starts to look very, what's the word, tight. The brush strokes are so pre-planned that everything looks like it was painted with a clenched fist. And so if you look at a Van Gogh, you can tell that he's really just digging it and he's going with the flow, as opposed to an old-timey Renaissance painter like Michelangelo or Da Vinci. They're so hell-bent on photorealism that it loses a certain amount of the expression. I know, I'm bad-mouthing Michelangelo and Da Vinci. They're still really good. Super better than me, for sure. Which is why I don't have Ninja Turtles named after me, but they do. Sometimes I have to make sound effects. So I kind of feel like this part here is too bright. So I'm going to darken that down a bit. Fold in a little bit of the blue. How do you fold it in? Just fold it. Just fold it in. Alrighty. Let's see here. Is that the right one? I should have labeled my blue hues a bit more specifically, because I lose track of which one goes where. Now, as I'm painting this, I am also thinking about the work of the church and the certain aspects of it that I love so much. And I've come back over and over again to the concept of the beloved community, which is something that Martin Luther King picked up on and frequently cited. I don't believe he originated it, but gosh, I forget who did. Oh, man. Scott, do you know off the top of your head? Might have been Thomas Merton? Again, Get in that comment section. Tell me who originated the term the beloved community. So much of it is dealing with the social justice work that MLK is so well known for and that our church aspires to. And, to wrap it all up as, which is a silly thing to try to do, but to try to sort of sum it up a little bit. The beloved community is a manner of engaging in social justice work that recognizes that our opponents, our adversaries, or our enemies, so to speak, the people who are working against us in the work that we're attempting to accomplish, those people are our beloved neighbors, our loved ones, members of our community. And it encourages us to always remember that, let's imagine we win the battles we're engaged in. Let's imagine that we succeed in the social justice cause that we're striving toward. At that time, we will still be living alongside the people that were the day before our adversaries and our enemies. Of course, this picks up on Jesus' call to love your enemies, right? We love our enemies simply because they're human beings, but there's also a strategy to it, that we love our enemies because tomorrow we're going to see them at work. Tomorrow we're going to see them at the assembly meetings. Tomorrow we're going to be driving right behind them in traffic or right next to them, and we don't want them to run us off the road. It's a long-term strategy of building up as we move forward, that we don't want to accomplish the goals of caring for the poor simply by tearing down people who disagree with us. Our goal is always to be building up. So if we're going to go out there and make a speech of some sort or a Facebook conversation of some sort to try to get people to agree with us, but instead all we're doing is poking fun of people or doing things of that nature, we're not really living up to what we're told to do. I fail at this. I'm not trying to be holier than anybody here. I think Martin Luther King succeeded, and that's why he's so special. I fall short frequently. I fall into the trap of making snarky comments or dismissing people as cruel or heartless simply because they're looking at things differently than I do. So in painting something like this, I will be putting on the star from the Nike Summit site as an expression of that hope for something better in the future. Because the Nike Summit site here in town once housed nuclear weapons, and if you ever get a chance, it's a marvelous tour to go on. You can go up there, they show you around where everything was. And those weapons never were fired. And that's a beautiful victory for humankind, that we were poised throughout the Cold War to annihilate humanity, and we didn't. We turned back from that horror and instead continued building and hoping and working for something better. And so whenever I see that star up there on the hill, I am reminded that even when things are exceptionally dark, even when there was the Cuban Missile Crisis and the people up on that hill were ready to go, I think historically that works out that they were ready to go up there on that day. When the Cold War was at its worst and they were ready to fire, it never actually had to happen, and there was the victory that is peace. The victory was that it never ever had to happen. And just as that day was dire, but it got so much better, here we are today at a time when, as I said before, so many of us are feeling certain forms of difficulty or hardship or despair. That's where I get my hope from. That's where I keep on looking back. Well, that's one place. I get it from lots of places. One of the places I find my hope is remembering that we were all so ready to blow each other off the face of the earth, and yet we didn't. And that could happen again. Sorry, I had to walk off and get a different brush. I'm going to get a little water on it. This part here is a bit more blendy because I'm going to put some stuff in the foreground. Blendy is a word, right? So I'm hearing notifications here. My son is texting me. So, hi, James. I don't think you're watching, but let's take a look and see if he's telling me that I made a terrible mistake. Nope. I thought maybe he's saying, hey, Dad, you're painting it all wrong. The other day I was preaching, and fortunately I didn't have my phone on me because Elizabeth was texting with somebody. She was at home watching the service from home, but texting someone and didn't realize I was also on the thread. And so she said afterwards she was like a little bit concerned that I was trying to preach, and she kept on interrupting me. Luckily, I don't take my phone into the pulpit usually unless I have something specific I'm doing with it. All right, let's see here. Going back to this here. So along with the beloved community, there is a parallel sense of what we are striving for in our work as a church. I mentioned before that we will collaborate from time to time. We have a friendly relationship with Congregation Beth Shalom. In fact, I do a podcast with Rabbi Abram from that community. That podcast is called What Divines Us, and you can find it all your usual podcast places. And Congregation Beth Shalom, of course, has the word shalom right in their title. And the concept of shalom is one that is deeply embedded into the Bible, and it's one that Christianity picks up on as well through its various language translations. It's still always part of what we do. It can sometimes be translated as peace or completeness, wholeness, or well-being. There's lots of ways to potentially translate it, and in my opinion, it really translates well into the whole concept of the beloved community. That we are looking for a community not just at peace, because throughout history we've had times of peace that were brought to us by the inhumane practice of empire, right? We've had Pax Romana, which it was peace, that's for sure, but it was peace achieved by just killing anyone who made any sort of trouble. And that's not the sort of thing that is shalom. That's not shalom peace. That's people being oppressed. So we're looking for the peace of shalom. We're looking for the peace that is, whoops, I chose the wrong kind again. Good golly, what's wrong with me today? Like I said, I haven't painted in a while, and so I'm a little bit out of practice in some ways. But we're looking for the peace that creates the beloved community, the peace that is not by oppressing others, but rather peace that allows every person to flourish into a completeness and a wholeness that God has intended them to be, that allows each and every person to be expressing the beauty that God created them to be in their entirety. And so that's the beloved community, that's shalom, all wrapped up together with one another. And so in a little while here, once I get down into the cityscape section of this, it's a little wet now, so I'll have to wait for it to dry. But I'm going to be putting in some hidden stuff. I'm going to put in our church, probably, like an abstract version of it. And I'm going to put in, kind of an artistic Van Gogh-ish, abstractified version of some of the buildings in the city. And hidden in there, if you know where to look, will be the word shalom as written in Hebrew. And I'll point that out to those of you who make the purchase. Some of you might know it already, but it's the kind of thing, hopefully, if I do it right, that will be apparent once it's pointed out to you, but difficult to see if you don't know that it's there. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the paintings of Bev Doolittle. She is a wonderful artist. I love her work a lot. And you'll look at it initially and say, oh, that's a cool picture of the woods, okay, but not much to it. And then you look carefully and you notice there are all these animals not only hiding in the woods, but hidden in the texture of the tree bark. Or across multiple trees, there are things hidden throughout in there that someone has to point out to you. And then you realize, oh my goodness, this whole thing is vibrant with all these different types of creatures. I just never knew they were there. I love hiding things like that in my paintings, and so I'm going to be hiding some of those in here also once I get down to that section. But it's going to take a little while. How long have we been going? Scott, about half an hour? So at this point, I think I have said the things I need to say, and I'm going to shut my yapper, and I am going to just kind of focus on some of the painting a little bit more. And Scott is going to play some music. We picked music mostly from my little brother, Greg. I say little, he's old now too, just like all of us Schultzes are. But we're going to play some music. I picked Greg for one reason. I love his music. It's awesome. But for another reason, it's copyright free, so I won't get silenced on the algorithm. And so that's going to be playing while I am no longer talking. Scott will be keeping that link up for you to go to, and you can become one of our sustaining supporters if you see fit to do so. And Scott, do we have those quotes that might go up as well, or are they not available? Okay, so there might be some quotes come in, just interesting things to think about that have to do with beloved community or peacemaking or social justice or what have you. So I'm going to quit talking now, but I'm going to keep on painting. Love you guys. I do hope you'll consider supporting the church by buying a print of what this will eventually become. Thanks.
Nobody that endangers me is coming to my door. Single light embraces me and I cry out for more. The bricks remain walking on, so all the little stones. My eyes cry from exhaustion, looking at the phone. My hands are sore and dirty. My neck is pulled by a chain. Sometimes I wish I'd never yearned for all this seasonal pain. False cold, secret smiles, lend your face to rebellious signs. Prisoner of fashion, shackled to fame. When it comes round again, it will all be the same. False court, secret smile, lend your face to rebellious eyes. Prisoner of fashion, shackled to fame. When it comes round again, it will all be the same. My hands are sore and dirty. My neck is pulled by a chain. Sometimes I wish I'd never yearned for these all-day seasonal plans. Nobody that endangers me is coming to my door. A single light embraces me and I cry out for more. Bricks were made for walking on, so all the little stones. My eyes cry from exhaustion and looking at the phones. My hands are sore and dirty. My neck is pulled by a chain. Sometimes I wish I'd never yearned for all day seasonal plans. yeah. Let me tell you a little story right now. Tell me about my man Andrew Jack. He only stand about 3 feet tall now, mama. Yeah, 3 feet tall now, that's a fact. Let me tell you about Andrew Jack. He only stand about 3 feet tall. But just because he's only 3 feet tall, don't assume his personality's small. Let me tell you, it ain't. Yeah, come on. Andrew Jack, 3 feet tall, man, that's a fact. Andrew Jack, that little man. Andrew Jack, 3 feet tall, man, yeah. Andrew Jack, oh, that little man, yeah. Yeah. Andrew Jack. That Andrew Jack? I heard he's one bad. Shut your mouth. Hey man, just talking about Andrew Jack. And I can dig it. Oh yeah.
hope that it's not an intrusion to look in the dark where you dwell. Your eyes filled with pain and confusion as you lash out at me and yourself. Today was a good day by measure. Tomorrow holds triumph and loss. You're still my unparalleled treasure. You're still my unbearable cross. I say that it all is okay when I know that I know nothing more. Can I hold you up, lift you up skyward when your weight throws me to the floor? How can I love you, serve you and heal you if I never know what you need? Where is the strength that I need in between all the moments when you're unbesieged? Repetitive cycle of mercy, rolling admission of the wrong. A jury dismissed without verdict, longing for how to belong. While our house is in flames and you with you, I uselessly beg at the door. While your ship sinks away in the distance, I hopelessly shout from the shore. Do I say that it's all okay? I know that I know nothing more. Can I hold you up, lift you up skyward, and your weight throws me to the floor? How can I love you, serve you, and heal you if I don't know what you need? Where is the strength that I need in between all the moments when you're unbesieged? Oh, when you're unbesieged. Oh, when you're unbesieged. Oh, when you're unbesieged. Oh, when you're unbesieged. Oh, when you are unbesieged.
is certainly nowadays of real questionable taste. And but the soundtrack is a banger, and he sampled it and moved it around. So who knows? It might still be okay, but it's hilarious. And also, we went from a couple songs previously that had real deep meaning to it to this particular nonsense. It's a fun juxtaposition. I just thought it was funny, and people might enjoy that. So, thanks, Scott. We'll go back to I think it's called Black Belt Funk. Is that the name of the song? I think it's what it's called.
laugh lingers, he strokes the page. Never fully asks questions, he only half beckons, then he fades away. Wonder with the wild locust, his eyes are focused somewhere else. Foolish like a sage, open the page, open to himself. With a flat canvas and an open can, creation agent hands vanish. He can't expand his attention span. You can try to call, but you can't reach him, and you can't teach him anyway. He's too far gone, but hope lingers. His black little fingers, they will find their way.
Sonic experimentation tonight. My man Greg is gonna try a little something. My man's gonna bring it. Come on, Greg. Yeah, come on, Greg. Come on, Greg. Come on, Greg. Come on, Greg, come on. This song is all about fishing.
When I gave a ride to those two fallen angels, they shared their scrap heap of belief. Their taste for the faith, well, it never wavered, nor did their flavor of grief. Ooh. And it cut me to the bone, and it left me all alone, left bereft of my excuses and hopes, and they sped on as I slowed, and they left me on the road, and I still had 10,000 miles to go. So hallelujah, hitch a ride, pay the tolls and hop inside, 'cause no one's gonna pay their own way. The roadsides are blank, only vapor in the tank. My destination's getting far away. Ooh, 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 ooh. Walking on, fallen angels come and gone. Had no name or direction, so it seemed. We're all beggars by the road, we're all riding with the Joes. But California just ain't what we dreamed. And the radio preacher man said salvation's close at hand, and the long road to heaven, it ain't paved. But I get off my dusty knees, and I pocket in my pleas, 'cause I ain't got that much left to save. Ooh, 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 ooh. And it cut me to the bone, and it left me all alone, left bereft of my excuses and hopes, and they sped on as I slowed, and they left me on the road, and I still had 10,000 miles to go. So hallelujah, hitch a ride, pay the tolls and hop inside, 'cause no one's gonna pay their own way. The roadsides are blank, only vapor in the tank. My destination's getting far away.
Fathers were oaks and mothers the sea. They were full-Trump fires, fantastic. Unbound men, they built cities of stone. But my bones are hollow and made of plastic. I won't burn, I won't burn. I won't burn, I won't burn. Hammering on anvils, men once fought too cold. As gravity reached at their ankles. But never a boy to be unduly held. I instead made a bed of my shackles. And I won't burn, I won't burn. I won't burn, I won't burn. They fill my filler. The halls of cathedrals of empires past. Foundations for my in-home theater. Freedom and liberty fly on this flag. That never injustice may fetter. Wearing the blood of 100 young girls. But boy, don't they make a fine sweater. I won't burn, I won't burn. I won't burn, I won't burn. I won't burn, I won't burn. I won't burn, no, I won't burn.
When I smoked a cigarette, I sold them my vacation thoughts and knock on you. But I headed to the buildings, gotta be on time. Must be some reform to be free of these lines, but I can't say that I am sorry for all the blatant stupid things that I've done. No, I can't say the guilt made me worry, but at least I can say I have fun. I wish I hadn't let it go again, but when it comes to situations like this, I'll never win. I'm bound to make the same mistakes every time I try. Cause summertime a while these hopes have been lies, and although I know I won't get an answer, I see no harm in asking that question. Cause if I give up on asking, my hopes of success will be gone. We can find another way if you really think that it matters. I've got nothing left to say. My thoughts are too hard to get. This morning when I smoked a cigarette, I saw that my vacation thoughts are not gone yet, but I headed to the building's gotta be on time. Must be something for me to retrieve these lines, but I can't say that I am sorry for all the blatant stupid things that I've done. No, I can't say that guilt made me worry, but at least I can say I have fun. We can find another way if you really think that it matters. I've got nothing left to say, but thoughts are too hard to gather. If I get murdered in the city, don't go avenging in my name. One person dead from such is plenty. No need to go get locked away. When I leave your arms, the things I think of, no need to get over along, because I'm coming home. I wonder which brother is better, which one our parents love the most. Are sure to get in lots of trouble. They seem to let the others go. A tear fell from my father's eye. Wondered what my dad would say. He said, I love you and I'm proud of you both in so many different ways. If I get murdered in the city, go read the letter in my desk. Don't bother with all my belongings. Pay close attention to the list. Make sure my sister knows I loved her. Make sure my mother knows the same. Always remember there was nothing worth sharing like the love that let us share our name. Always remember there was nothing worth sharing like the love that let us share our name.
I got lost inside a raging tempest, caught up in a madness. I finally reached the land with the sextant in my hand and one eye on the moon. Mama's gotta read a Bible, and Daddy's got her down on a saloon. I close your eyes in peace or in sweet release, but keep one eye on the moon. Well, There's cash in every casket, a fortune under every dome. Keep looking around for treasure underground, but keep one eye on the moon. However you may feel this morning, well, the reaper, he gonna get you soon. So pour your furrowed brow toward the furrow in your plow, but keep one eye on the moon. But keep one eye on the moon. But keep one eye on the moon.
The whole cold world isn't blue, and I don't need any shoes. Out the door in the light of the moon, silently, a choir below my feet, made of crickets and thickets and creeks, and the sound of a gathering breeze. Just for me, while the world sleeps I run very far, jumping fences and running through yards, lying down in the still empty road, on my own. I can fly, I can float on the breeze, I can run across the tops of the trees, and I don't need to eat or to breathe, 'cause I'm all alone. I'm the only one here who's away. They've left it all for me to take, but instead I am drifting away. But instead I'm drifting away. The cut grass and the dew on my toes, as the sky behind me glows, and the time when the time nearly froze, and the time when the time nearly froze, drifts away. Sun charges in and the night fades, the road fills up like a parade. The noises of morning, a chattering child's matinee. I'm the only one, I'm the only one, yeah. I'm the only one here who's awake, but they have left it all for me to take. But instead I am drifting away. Instead I'm drifting. Instead I'm drifting. Drifting away. oppressive laws. When you've got no food left to eat, then it's time to take your fight into the streets. To overcome oppression, it will require a fair amount of your own aggression. You have paid enforcers, but we've got some numbers and Mother Nature's resources. We get no money from the banks, every door we face is locked. I'm not afraid of your tanks, cause I've got this rock. We get no money from the banks, every door we face is locked. I'm not afraid of your tanks, cause I've got this rock. It's just a sign of the times. You get yours, I have to fight for mine. But that's no easy task when you have to bite and scratch to make things last. It seems that all that you try, you can just barely get by. We're not afraid of your guns, cause we've got all these rocks, and we're gonna throw these rocks, we're gonna make a stand. Yeah, with all that we can, I'm gonna throw this rock, yeah, I'm gonna make a stand. With all that I can, I know it's not much, but it's my hardest punch. No, it's not much, but it's my hardest punch. No, it's not much, but it's my hardest punch. I know it's not much, but it's my hardest punch, yeah. 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 Didn't teach me much, mostly told me close.
All right, everybody, it's every artist needs a second artist standing over their shoulder to tell them when to stop, because you're going to start putting on extra things that make it terrible. Also, Elizabeth always tells me I forget to sign it, so I'm going to sign my name down here at the bottom. It should be a little bit dry down here in this whiter spot. But I do again want to mention the star that looks out above our horizon. I know it's not exactly in the right place geographically, but in terms of the hope that it inspires in me and the joy that I feel when our city looks together up at the same bright beacon of peace, I just put it there in a spot where it could be seen. A lot of you remember that we put on a new outside layer of this church building over the past couple of years. It's called an EFIS layer, I believe. It's extra efficient and environmentally friendly. We had to replace it because the old one was made out of stucco and big chunks of rock were falling off. Bad scene. We put the new one on, and in certain daylight and certain times of day, it looks like a funny peach color. And Elizabeth and a friend of ours started calling this church Peachy Keen Presbyterian Church. And right here, I've put Peachy Keen Presbyterian Church. You can see it here across from some buildings that you could say are an approximation of the the Conoco building and the Atwood. Not exactly. Again, it's all just abstractions. However, if you look right here, there's this one that's kind of got 3 peaks, and then the church, and then this one and this one, that square. Taken together, those are a vague, kind of blurry version of the Hebrew letters for shalom. This one right here, the church, is the lamed, which is similar to our letter L. And it goes, of course, right to left in the Hebrew language. So here we have the skyline spelling out shalom, the hope of our beloved community being something that is made whole, not just peace through silencing the other side, but a peace that is built on justice and love for our neighbor. That's the hope of this church. And perhaps you're not a churchy person, but I'll bet you we can agree that that's a wonderful goal to strive toward. A peace that is built on justice and equality and love. If that's something that you feel like you could join us in and that you might perhaps be considering supporting, I invite you to look at the information on there for how to pay, how to support us. We have our recommended amount of $10 a month for 12 months, but you know what? We're a reasonable people. If you want to pay us a different amount, whether it's more or less, we can certainly work with you. Simply make the payment and shoot me an email, make a comment in the comment section, and let us know, and we'll make sure that you get your print. For now, I am going to sign this. Hey, what's the date? 6/23. All right. I have it on poster putty so that it can be up a little and you can see the bottom. All right. There we have it. I will call it a night and we'll get a good quality photo of it. And hopefully we can find a way to share this with the broader community. If you're a member of the church or a friend of the church and you have people that maybe don't know the church but love Anchorage or have seen some of what we do, I would really appreciate it if you could share this. I'll also post tomorrow just the photo. They don't have to watch the whole long video. This will be a secondary thing. If they purchase it, they might find it interesting to see how it's made. Otherwise, we'll start trying to share this again in the morning or maybe even later on tonight. We'll see. Thank you. I love you guys. And in the words of Bob Ross, happy painting and God bless, my friend.